addressing the anger and pain so many of us feel and how we can find hope. Here's a look. They came together to comfort, to mourn, and to find answers. The nation still numb after the death of 5 officers and 2 young black men.
Dallas needs a big hug. America needs a hug.
Bishop T.D. Jakes turning his regular service at a Dallas megachurch into a community town hall.
It takes courage to love when you've been hurt.
From the family of Alton Sterling.
I haven't slept or ate since he passed.
To the officer who saw his friend shot before his eyes.
I woke up this morning and I felt lost.
To the thousands in the pews, everyone grappling with the pain. Bishop Jakes reminding all, even when it seems hard, there is hope.
It is possible for us to love one another and work together and be on the same side.
So let's continue the conversation. And joining us now is psychiatrist and our good friend of GMA, Dr. Janet Taylor, and Mark Lamont Hill is back. He is the author of Nobody, Casualties of America's War on the Vulnerable from Ferguson to Flint and Beyond. Also the host of VH1 Live that's premiering on Sunday. Thank you both for being here.
And Mark, you also teach in Morehouse, and I know you've been in touch with your students this week. What kind of emotions are they sharing?
The emotions are so raw. You know, I receive phone calls and text messages from my students, and of course it's a school with all black males. Some were literally in tears saying, "What do we do?" They were devastated at the shootings on Wednesday and Thursday in Baton Rouge and in Minnesota, partly because they felt like there's this inescapable violence. They said, we go to great school, we're well educated, but we can't escape the possibility of violence. And then on Friday, they were devastated about the officers being killed. And they were also worried that that narrative would kind of erase the narrative around black male violence or violence against black males and women around America. So they're lost. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're looking for answers. They want to do something to help move the country forward.
It's good to hear what the Morehouse men have to say. Janet, so many emotions. I don't know about you guys, but over the weekend, gathered with friends, and there's anger and there's fear. And tell us, Janet, the difference between those two emotions and how they affect us, anger and fear.
So fear is an instinct, and our brains are constantly working to see if we're safe or we need to look for something we have to survive. So that fear, in terms of feeling threatened, is a normal reaction, but it's largely unconscious. But the anger is a secondary emotion, and it's a reaction to what's going on. So emotions are normal. I think, we are so used to looking for happiness, which is important, and joy, but sometimes we have to be rooted in pain so that we can work through it. And before we can get to love and healing, we have to look at ourselves in terms of our own lineage, our own beliefs, what's been told us about other people, and challenge that so that we can break that. Because the suffering that we feel right now is the suffering that we feel, I think, as black people over the last 300 years. And that suffering also extends to people who have been perpetrators. So now our nation is at a time where we can be raw, talk to our neighbors, listen. We have to learn how to listen in a way that's not defensive, but say, I want to understand.
The mayor of Dallas was interesting, many things that he said yesterday at church, and one of the things he said, when it comes to change, you have to be willing to change too. It's like, it's very easy to point and say, you need to change. Well, what about yourself?
There's no question, and you don't have to be on the other side. You don't have to, just because we're the same ethnic group doesn't mean we all have the same feelings and beliefs. I think as a nation, we have to be able to tolerate differences and learn how to listen to understand, which means stop with the automatic thoughts and really be there in a way that I think it's time right now.
And we want to bring our viewers into this conversation as well. I know Kimmy from Mississippi is joining us by Skype. Kimmy?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
What would you like to share?
Well, this past weekend, I have children. I have 4 children, and one of my children expressed to me that she was scared. She was scared for her dad. She was scared for her brothers. And she said, Mommy, if you do all the right things, what if you still do all the right things and then they still shoot you? And as a parent, that's frustrating. It's frustrating because I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't know how to respond. And I know a lot of parents are hurting. I know a lot of people are angry. But, how do you turn all of that into something constructive? How do I prepare my kids for these possibilities that, unfortunately, I don't want to face them, but I don't know what else to tell my children. How do I talk to my children?
Thank you for that, Kimmy. Mark, you want to take that?
I think that's a great point, and that's what my Morehouse students were saying. We so-called live the good life, the right life. We do things the quote-unquote right way. Opening people's eyes to the fact that you can't behave your way out of structural violence. You can't behave your way out of institutional racism. We have to fight. So part of what this does is we orient our kids to be very realistic about what the world is and what the world can be. We have to orient them to turn that pain into power. That means that they have a responsibility to not only behave properly, but to also help fight the structures and build the structures. That means to organize. That means to change the way we engage ourselves. That means to do community watch. Tonight at VH1 Honors, we're having our artist community come out and talk about what artists can do to change the music that we do and to be involved in the community. Every sector of our lives has to be involved with this, but there's no easy answers, even for our children, and that's what hurts so much.
I know we're getting a wrap. I know you're trying to do that, but we need to bring in Elizabeth because she has family members who are in law enforcement, and she has a question as well in Skype. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Sure. Good morning. Thanks for having me. I have 2 toddlers, and like Robin said, I have family and friends in law enforcement, and so. I think as you were talking about anger and fear, when we come from a side that we understand better, our gut reaction is to want to protect that or to get defensive. And I'm trying really hard to have this conversation with young children and say that, everybody, all families are dealing with loss right now. We're losing husbands and wives and people who have 6 kids or recently became grandparents or whatever the situation might be, and we have to remember these people as individuals and try not to label and box them into stereotypes and things like that. So how do you keep a constructive conversation, a positive conversation going when you're obviously very tied to one side of the conversation?
Okay, Elizabeth, thank you.
Well, you tell the story and understand as a parent you're not alone. A lot of parents are saying, I don't know what to say. But I go back to Martin Luther King when people would ask him, how do you keep it going? Your family's been threatened, bombed. He said, hope is always there. And I think that's the point. Where there is pain, there is hope. And we have to keep remembering that.
Great last word. We'll be right back.
Thank you both.
Charlotte, you saw Aunt Liz on TV.
When you put on a pair of
Hey, Charlotte.
sunglasses, the world
Aunt Liz was on TV.
colors are more vivid,
Yeah.
clearer. Details are crisper.
She did a good job talking on live TV, right?
Lenses that eliminate
Say
glare
congratulations, Aunt Liz.
change the world.
Congratulations.
You see it.
And those are good questions, right?
Maui Jim.
You're watching your go-to movie, which has that one